We're going to be talking about building an onboarding process for web design clients. Now, first off, with onboarding, let's think about experiences with web design projects. Now, last week we talked about scope creep, and I'm sure all of us were able to relate to the bad experiences in projects when they go sideways, when the projects go completely out of scope, when, you know, like it was supposed to take 2 weeks and it ends up taking 4 months. So that's an example of the bad experience. But let's now look at a good experience in a web design project and think, like, have you ever had a web design project that just felt like it was perfect? Like, it started off great, where you're able to connect with the client very well, where you guys felt like you were in sync. You're able to sign a contract and get paid really quick for your deposit. The project started off right away. There was like this just clear communication and understanding. There was no scope creep in it. If the project took 2 weeks, it finished in 2 weeks, and you guys were done. The client was super happy, and everything was just great. Now, that's an example of a web design project when it is following a clear process, most importantly, an onboarding process. Now, first off, for this call, we're going to do things a little bit different on this call. So I want everyone to be able to get prepared. If you don't have a notebook and pen right now, go get one. This is a call that we are going to do a bit of writing in it. There's going to be a little bit of work, and there are going to be challenges at the end. I feel like we could be doing more action, and by doing some actions, we could get a lot more out of these. So let's do some actions. All right, cool. So let's start off with what is onboarding. So onboarding basically it's a structured process of bringing in a new client and starting the web design and development project. The onboarding, it begins immediately after the client signs a contract and pays the deposit. And this is crucial since this will lay the groundwork, and it will frame the whole structure of how the project will go. So basically, when you talk with your client, you sign the contract, you get the deposit, it's that transition to starting that project and the steps that you take into the work that you do from that point all the way up to the end point, and putting a process in place. Now, here's a few areas to look at when we're creating onboarding processes. First one will be the kickoff meeting or a discovery meeting. The next one is going to be creating a questionnaire where we could collect the information, the logins, and anything that you need in order to start the work and to do your job. Having project management tools in place and ready to use them. Creating a filing system for organization. Building a project roadmap that details the timeline as well as the processes in the project. And here is the big one right here, building a system for collecting content, images, and assets. All right, now, so we start at the beginning. And what we want to do from the very beginning is we want to build that momentum, and we want to keep that momentum going. When you lose the momentum in a project, for example, let's say you start the project and you kind of let time go, and the communication with the client is minimal. Maybe you're only collecting a password here. You're just like, nothing is like really put into place. And you are just reaching out to the client, say, hey, can I get this login? And you reach out to them a couple of days later, I need FTP access. Reach out a couple of days later. What that does is you lose a momentum. And once you lose a momentum, the project starts to go off course. And just like what we talked about last week on scope creep, when things start to go off course and we start to fall off the timeline, that opens up room for changes. It opens up room for new ideas. Also, we got to keep in mind the clients are super busy as well. They have their own businesses to run. So the client already signed the contract. They already paid the deposit. That means they're ready to go. And they're in the moment. So we want to keep that rolling. We don't want to lose them right there, and with ourselves as well. So you put in the work, you won the project, you earned the client's trust and confidence, but don't get complacent because the hard work is really about to start. And it starts immediately right after the sales process. Right after your sales process, you want to jump right into the onboarding and build that momentum and keep it going. Now, really quick, we're not going to go too much into sales process because that would need its own call right there, or its own, its own discussion for the sales process. But just to give an idea of the sales process so we know where to pick up on the onboarding, normally they look something like this, where you get the lead from the client, either a contact form or a referral. Is basically getting that first lead, that first email or message. Second step would be you have the phone calls with the client, get to understand the project, then you send out a proposal, and then the last step would be the contract and deposit being paid. So right then and there, after that deposit is paid, that's when we start the onboarding, and we start it immediately. All right, so what this call is about, it's about building the systems and creating processes. The goal of it is to start building a process for onboarding. We're going to look at putting together systems and creating templates. Think of the things that you do over and over. Like you do the same task on every single project. The way that you collect content, the way that you ask questions, anything that you do over and over, we're going to look at a way to do it one time. So that way you don't have to do it again. That's going to be the process right there in the automation. So we could build like a template around it. And also keep in mind for this call right now, this is just a start. It's just to begin the process, just to begin going from all those random emails, all the back and forth communication with the client at the start of the project, going to actually putting a list of things together, putting templates together in order, and having like a defined process somewhere where you could go to inside your file. Like, okay, you just signed on the client, you go directly to the file. These are the steps we're going to take. Everything is ready to go. But it's also just going to be the beginning of it, because these are going to be constantly improved on. So when you start your process now and you start putting these together now, you start using them now, but you're going to be constantly adjusting and making them work better. So we're not going to be trying to make the perfect end result right now. We want to make the starting, the foundation for it. All right. So first part of the process is will be the kickoff meeting or discovery. And also, as we go through, I got 6 processes that we could look at for this call. And we could set something for each one of these. We could build a process underneath each one of these, but they don't necessarily have to go in this order. You find your own order that works for you with trial and error. So when I label process 1, doesn't mean you have to start off with that one, but build it and have it ready, and then work in the order that works best for you. So the first one we're going to talk about, which is the kickoff meeting or the discovery. And this is a good opportunity to review the project with the client and reaffirm the expectations. And you could do this by reviewing your processes. Basically, everything you put inside your proposal, everything that you have inside your contract, you could go ahead and review those with the client. You could review like, okay, this is the process and the step we're going to take. We're going to start off with research. We're going to go into design this week. We're going to go into development. We're going to go into testing. Whatever that process is for the project that you guys agreed on, you're just going to review it again. And then you're going to review the timeline, the deliverables, the scope of work, also then whatever you need from your client. This way, you're getting the project started, building that momentum on the right track, and you're making sure that most important, those expectations are just reaffirmed. You want to make sure there's just clear understanding, especially when it comes to deliverables and scope of work. Because the main thing is we want to keep this project on track. We don't want a 2-week job to turn into a 2-month job. One thing we got to do for these kind of meetings, and this is with all meetings, if you're not doing this yet, look at starting to do this. You want to prepare for all meetings, and when you prepare for a meeting, you always want to write an outline of the meeting, and you want to facilitate it. I feel like when I go into a meeting with a client, it is my job to facilitate that meeting. Like, I have a flow and a direction that I want the meeting to go into. And the only way I'm going to get that meeting to really go in that direction that is productive for both of us. I want to control the outcome of it, the flow of it. So what I mean by that is by putting together an outline and being able to guide and facilitate it. So the process we want to build here is, if you're going to be doing this with every single job, with every single new client, then why not make a template sheet on it? So that way you don't have to take that time and write down the questions, write down everything. And these are the things we want to put in place. So here's one right here. This is a template to use to start off with. And this is something we could use to use for all your meetings. So you basically have this template ready. And you know you got a kickoff meeting coming, and that's fine. You don't have to scramble, spend all that extra time putting it together. All you do is pull out your template, and you go through it just like you would go through with all your clients. The first thing we want to do inside this template I put together would be to review the process and steps that it'll take from the beginning to the end, the finish line. You want to go through the timeline with the clients, review the project requirements, scope of work, deliverables, and get a confirmation and understanding of all the questions. So that would be the first part. That's how I usually start off. You know, it's like a welcome meeting. You know, it's like, hey, I'm really excited to work with you. Thank you for choosing us for your project. Let's go ahead and start this off with the kickoff welcome meeting. We could just go ahead, just get on the, just get that communication, get that momentum going. We're really excited for your project. And inside, you get the meeting going. It doesn't have to be a long meeting. Just get a clear understanding, like, okay, we're on the right track. Good. We want to make sure we're focused on the same goals, on the same outcomes. And then you go off to your most common questions you normally ask. And here, this is something for all of you to do. Think of what questions do you ask your clients over and over? What is the same question that you always ask a client? So start to think of those and then start to list those in there. Now, we could start off with listing the ones that we could think of now, but as you're going through each kickoff meeting, you'll think of another question like, do you know what? Let me add that there. So you're going to constantly be adding your questions here. And then the next one, we like to end it with details from the client. Like, I like to give them guidance and step-by-steps on what we're going to need from them and how we need it. And with this, we got to explain the process. And we'll talk about that in a little bit later. But basically, when we're collecting content, images, logos, fonts, other assets from the client, we need to have a process in place for that too. And this is where we talk about that to the client when we let them know, hey, this is what to expect. This is what we got. This will help you make it easier for you. And then you send that out to the client right afterwards. And then I like to also open it up with Q&A, making sure it's open. They could ask questions. If I got any other questions that came up in the meeting, we could go ahead and ask here. All right, so this is what I want to do right here. Like I said, I want to put more action into these calls and get more like actual work done where we could take this and apply it into what we're doing right now. So let's take a 2-minute break. I want to take a 2-minute break right now, and I want to ask everybody here to list down 2 to 3 common questions that they normally ask every single client. Just 2 to 3, only 2 minutes. So if you have like those questions that you feel like, oh, do you know what? This is the same question I asked over and over and over again. Go ahead and list them down. I'm going to time it out for 2 minutes and stop the screen or stop the thing. And let's go. 2 minutes. All right, cool. Who wants to go first?
I can give it a, I don't mind going first. If someone else wants to be a volunteer, please go ahead.
Go for it, Rasha.
All right. Some basic questionnaire which I generally ask to the clients during an onboarding process. One of the important ones is first, if they are looking to get a website design, my first question will be what is their business about, and what are the goals that they have from this website. This is first. One more question which can give rise is how do they think that this website is going to help their business, for what they have ideas in mind. Because I realize it, we had a discussion before some time that it might not be what the customer really needs a website. So it's good to ask that how does he think that this website is going to help him. And finally, if website is something which a customer or a client needs at the moment, what kind of a website he's looking for, what are the expectations and the needs of the website, and going into what is his ideal website design, which I can design for him. I think this is a few 2 or 3 basic questions which me, or I think a lot of us, have to ask in the initial discovery meetings to know that what are we getting ourselves into. Yeah, that's it.
Do you ask these questions before you get the project, or do you ask these questions after you've already given a price, signed a contract, and collected payment?
I think this about the price, I will keep it a bit separately, but these questions as you said, it's a part of a discovery meeting as well, but it's majorly a part of a discovery meeting when you run the first discovery calls with your clients, you know, like what are you looking out of it and everything. And then is how you will quote a price, because you cannot quote a price by getting these questions about what does he really wants. You cannot really quote a price without knowing what are you going to do for him. So it comes before, and then the price will come up later.
Yeah. No, these are great questions. Do you feel though they should go more into the sales process instead of the onboarding process? Meaning the sales process is going to be before you give a quote, before you give the price, and the onboarding process is going to be after you've already agreed on a project and have already started it.
Yeah. True, as you say, that it's more of a sales part of it oriented question, but maybe I missed out on a line there, and I might say that I really thought of it that generally the questions which we can put up on our template. But yes, with the onboarding process, this might change a bit here or there. So I missed out on that there. But yes, it's more of a sales process oriented for sure. I agree with you. But yes, when I was looking at the template, so it gave me a thought that we are listing the questions which you ask basically. So this is why I wrote it up. But yes, I can give them a change. You can move further and ask some other people meanwhile. So.
Well, actually, you're right. I mean, a lot of these questions we could do on both of them. It does help out, you know, because sometimes you might ask it on the first one, but then you ask it again later on.
Yeah.
And it might be a little bit of a different answer to it. So good. And I think you hit on something too. You could also make the template for the sales, and these questions as you put them together, it's like, okay, we put them on both. Let's create a template for both. Good stuff, man. All right, who's next? Go ahead and jump in.
Maybe I wrote wrong answer because I prepared the question that usually customer asks. Can you repeat the question?
Oh, so for this, it's a list
customer question, or we as the web designer ask the customer, because I get wrongly maybe.
Oh yeah, so this was supposed to be for you to list the questions that you ask over and over for the client. So say you start the project with a client, you guys are started, you just got the beginning, you have your kickoff meeting where you're talking about how the project's going to go, you know, like just a whole dialogue right there. You're talking to the client about what you're going to need, like you're going to need, you know, content, images, what to expect, like that whole welcoming and kickoff conversation. Like what questions do you ask normally inside those questions that you ask over and over to add into a template?
Okay, I skipped for this one. Sorry.
All right, it's all good. How about you, Ian? You got something?
Yeah, well, obviously I am absolutely brand new to this, so I haven't really done the only website I've actually built for friends, so it is obviously a lot more friendly and relaxed than professional. I guess probably a couple of things I would put in is maybe if they've had any thoughts about what fonts they do or don't like, if they've been having a look, any color palettes maybe that they prefer. If they've, you know, maybe if you've spoken about that before in the discovery meeting, maybe just reconfirming what colors they like, if they changed their mind on things like that. Rather than, I'm trying to not think of them introducing anything that they could scope creep on, but just things to reconfirm, like I say, colours, fonts, just something that to reconfirm before we actually start to do anything like that, maybe.
All right. That's good. Yeah, for sure. That's good. All right, Lauren.
I think I did kind of what Raj did, where I was listing out questions that were a little bit more pre-contract, but we asked them again during onboarding. We have templated out our onboarding process, and I typically ask, like you said, you know, all the art assets, all the photos, the original your logo files. Do they have any brand guidelines that have been created in the past that we need to be aware of? I should probably bring it up. It would be helpful here. Then the other questions that I wrote down originally, because we do paid discovery with clients, at the end of the project, at the end of the call rather, we'll always ask them just kind of that overview of, you know, confirming. So if we hit these goals, is that going to be a successful project? Like, what does success look like to you? And just like, are we missing anything else? Are there any other technical requirements or branding requirements that we need to be aware of that perhaps has not come up before jumping into any design or development? Where's my template? Hold on.
These are all good. I mean, now we got a long list of questions that we could ask a client just from this little call right here. I mean, just from 6 of us. Well,
I want to add, Jeff.
huh?
I want to add something. Uh,
Go for it.
Lauren has mentioned about the logo and brand guideline. I have one more. Is usually I ask 3 to 4 benefits of your product or services. That's all. Thanks.
3 to 4 benefits.
Yeah, 3 or 4 benefits of your services or the client's product.
Oh, okay. That they offer on their website, like, right? Benefits. And this is perfect. This is what the whole. What's that?
Sorry, 2 more. Google Analytics code, so that you don't finish a project and forget.
I know.
I know. And all the logins to the hosting, the database, all that. Oh, and email. See, I gotta add this to my template. Email marketing code or logins, so that you can integrate the email in. Oh, sorry, I remembered another one too. Where the contact forms go. Thank you for helping me, Jeff.
The whole point of this. Now, let me say that I know, like, if you're new and like looking at this or thinking about it for the first time, that's awesome. I'd never even heard of onboarding for my first 2 years, and as a result, there's a lot of messy projects. I mean, we could deliver a really good website, but going from taking on the project to that end website, it could get really messy. And it wasn't until a year ago, in fact, it was a year ago that I had a friend that he runs a big e-commerce business, like really big, does very well, and he works very little bit. And we had a conversation. I'm like, dude, how do you do this? And he just said, it's like, all I've done was focus on building processes and automating. And that's when I started looking at it, and that's when I discovered onboarding right here. I have a few questions too on mine. Well, a lot of them are just the same as everybody mentioned in here. A couple of ones I have was also, I like to ask them, how often do they want to check in? Like, how much do they want to communicate throughout the project? How do they prefer our communication to go? What is best for them? Like, we could do email, Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, whatever they feel, phone calls. And another one I always like to ask is, will they be going on holiday, or will they be taking any breaks during the time of this project? So we got a long list. Look at that. I got a long list now to add to the template. It's like half a template right there. Perfect. Does anybody else have anything to add before we keep going? Cool. All right, so the next one we're going to look at is creating a questionnaire to collect information and logins. Now, there's a few choices that we could use from this, and there's a couple ways to go about it. I think the best thing to do is like try them out and see what works best for you. There's tools like Content Snare. If you haven't heard about it, go online, look it up. It's really good for collecting content. Or Google Forms is also really good on collecting information from your clients. Or you could go ahead and create your own PDF template. The main thing we want to do here is to make sure we capture all the information at once. We do not want to do the back and forth emails because that's when things get really messy. That's when we start to come off disorganized. So like a lot of the questions just asked that we just had right here, we want to be able to have something in place, like especially when it comes to like the logins, the Google Analytics, the assets, just everything that you need from the client that the client got to give to you, login codes, that all that's just you make a list of it and you find a way to get the client to fill that out and then collect all that information at once. The next one is going to be a project management tool. And if you haven't started using one, take a look at it. Some of the most common, like the most popular ones would be like Trello or Asana. And what you want to do on this is you want to set up a blank project copy. Well, first you want to try it out. If you haven't used these yet and you're brand new to like using a tool like this to manage a project, go ahead and do like one or two. Look how it worked for you and then create like a blank project. So like in Asana, in Trello, and this is what I use is Trello is you got the cards, the way that you could organize the project with the cards. So the ones that work for you that are common, you just create a blank project and you can actually duplicate it. And I mean, you're going to be cutting out not massive time, but it's still you're reducing a lot of time from work you would keep doing over and over. So you would have a blank project ready to go instead of having to start over and restructure a new board on Trello or a new project in Asana. You just copy that blank template. Then the next one is kind of goes with the project management tool, and that's creating a file system. I put a picture of like what one of our file systems looks like, and basically just make something again that you could just duplicate. Just your outline of it. That way, all you got to do is basically click duplicate, and everything is ready to go. What this also helps out with, like you do save out, like, I mean, this only takes like a few minutes to build this, but you keep the projects consistent. You do save the few minutes, but ultimately I really feel by keeping the consistency and keeping everything like the same flow. So if you've done something like this, say for the last 5 projects, when it comes time to the 6th project, it's a lot more quicker because you already got an organization on how you put everything. When you're collecting your assets from your clients, say, you know, the logos, you already got a place for that. Where you're collecting your content, you got a place. Where you're collecting their images, and when you're optimizing them, you got a place. Same thing like all your notes that you've collected from the client, and like documentations like contracts and like the proposal, because I like to go back to those all the time, especially when there's scope creep or there's questions. I like to always go back to the contracts. I want to make sure I'm doing everything that I said I promised I was going to do. So I like to have that all in one place. Setting something like this up takes only a few minutes, but it'll save you time over time. The next one I want to look at is building a project roadmap that details timelines. And this is a big one. This could be really helpful right here and could be useful. What you could do inside these is you could define like your own timeline for each step of the project. And you could also like include in there, when am I going to make my client updates? I could tell you from experience, when I didn't have something in place, I would forget to check in with a client. And it's never good for a client to have to chase up on me asking what's going on with their project. Even though we said, okay, your project will take 4 weeks to complete. Put yourself in the client's shoes. You know, the client just gave you, you know, hopefully thousands of dollars, hopefully good money, and they're trusting in you for this project. And if you don't keep that communication regularly through it, you know, it can make them start to question, is this going okay? And whenever a client starts to question, first they can start to lose trust and have doubt. But then also when that comes in, so does new thoughts, new ideas. You want to keep it on track. So when you have something in place, you're able to follow up with the client. Like, hey, just want to let you know, we just finished week 1. We got this done, A, B, and C. We're on track. Now this is what we're looking at. This is where we're going. Let's go ahead and have a follow-up call then. Do you have any questions? You know, something like that in place. So you want a timeline schedule and a roadmap. That way you could keep your client updated with the progress, and you could also reinforce that timeline, making sure the project stays on time. You could go back to this as well when the client wants to make changes, when they have new ideas. It's like, it's okay if you want a new idea and you got changes, but we got this timeline right here. Do you want to start over, or do you want to stay on this timeline? It helps the client make more careful decisions. So this is another template right here. This one's for a project roadmap right here. And hopefully you could use something like this as well inside your proposals and contracts. At first I didn't do it. I just said the project would take, you know, 3 to 4 weeks. That was it. But then I learned to get more detailed in our contracts and put down a timeline like this that's detailed. What we're going to do per week. What are we going to do in the strategy and research phase? What do we do in the design phase? And you put something together like this. Now the 6th one and this one is a challenging one right here, because this is about building a system for collecting content, images, and assets. And what I mean by assets, I mean like fonts, logos, brand guidelines, things that the client has that you need for the website in order to build it. So knowing that this is one of the most challenging processes for a client, it's also one of the most common causes for a project to go late. And sometimes projects never even finish simply because of content. And that's really sad because, you know, this is somebody's business and they hired a professional or somebody that they're hoping to step up as a professional and help them have this website that they hired. So we know that this is a difficult part. And I feel like as a designer and for my own like sanity, I had to put something together to address it at the very beginning and make it so it's not a headache on the client as well. Because when it becomes a headache on me, I'm not the only one feeling it. We want to make sure that it works for the client as well. So the most important thing is you got to create your own system here. I wish there was like an easy answer to collecting content from clients, but I don't think that exists, or else we would already have that answer. What I think does work, and I can speak from experience, is try different techniques and find out what works best for you. Here are some options right here. And first, it is going to take trial and error. You know, you want to find what's best for you. And then when you find something that is working, like, hey, this one right here worked better than these ones, you know, hone in on that one right there and build that system. And then when you do build a system and build a process, like this is how we collect content, you know, make a process out of it, write it down and define it, and make sure that it's easy to communicate to the client, that the client fully understands. Here are a few ideas right here. One of them is content snare. And again, like if you haven't checked it out, check it out. I have a few friends that are designers and they love it. It works great for them. Another one is Google Forms, PDF templates. You could create your own template. Another one that I've done before that has worked is InVision or Sketch Cloud. This is great if you design before you develop, like you actually build a mock-up, because you can share that mock-up and you can let the clients fill in the content by the cloud on their platform. And this one right here is something that I'm starting to do, and it's that I find is working very well, especially on Elementor projects, and that's teaching clients to add their own content and images. Just something that I'm working on right now, and I'm actually in the process of updating and revamping our onboarding process. Is I'm sticking to that one personally because it's been working. I found that Elementor has made it easy for clients to change the text around. They really don't break things when they do it that much. It happens sometimes, but what I like to do is when I design, I structure out the content. I don't just wait for a bunch of content. It's just my style. Like I feel as a designer, I like to like structure the content, and I basically will have like an image here and then a content block here, and I'll write out the title, and then I'll put in the paragraph, some lorem ipsum, but I'll start it off like in this paragraph, write about this, write about the benefits your company can offer, you know, and I like to leave things like that and then just let the clients fill it in. But again, with this, find your own system, find what works for you, and then just hone in on it and try to just, thing is, you get this one down, you're going to save so much headache for you and for your client, and your projects are going to go a whole lot smoother. So the benefits, actually, no, I wanted to stop real quick before we wrap it up, because I feel like the content, like I feel like all of us building websites and creators and creatives and designers, like this is something like we've all been trying to do and trying to work on. It would be good to hear from others as well. Like, what are you doing right now? I want to ask you guys, what are you doing right now that is helping you collect content? Like, what has worked and what hasn't worked? I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
A lot hasn't worked for us, but it's hard to narrow that down. Because our clients are a little bit higher paying, they expect us, they pay for us to do all that data entry. So usually with more of the DIY clients, we can give them the logins and they go in and do it themselves, and that's easy. But the project still tends to get delayed even when they do it themselves. Sometimes by like 2 or 3 or 4 months, because they're like, no, I don't feel like it's ready yet. And they just keep tweaking things. So that's been a challenge that we've had with, if they have access, they don't ever feel satisfied with their own work. And it could just be that maybe once we give them the access, then they pay us in full and, you know, the site is done. What we do right now is just like a Google spreadsheet for the site architecture, and then link that usually to Google Doc pages, and then just put all the content within the Google Doc and give the client access to the docs.
Okay. And then you guys input it?
Yeah, then we put it in. Oh, was my internet bad? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like to close the project out. Like I like this is just what I'm looking at right now. What's starting to work is the teaching the clients to add their own content. Basically, we build the site, it's ready to go to fill in, but that's it. It's also over. And then, you know, like I said, we're still working on a process for this, but I think to like maybe like follow-up calls or follow-up like 30-minute one-on-one sessions to just see how they're doing, see what challenges they're having, and make sure they didn't break it. Yeah.
I think it probably depends on what you sell and what you want to specialize in. So if you want to build that shell for them and then they can be part of the process, that's easier. If they, you know, having a copywriter on the other spectrum is The copywriter does it all professionally, and then you just put it in, and it's easier. But very few clients pay for that.
Anybody else have something that works for them, or they're going through just a challenge that they, are trying to work through and trying to find a solution to?
So at the moment, Jeff, I would like to put in my thoughts on this. So I have been dealing with two clients, right? And they both are yin and yang, like north and south. One is pretty much always on time to give the content, and the other one doesn't even remember that there is content required for the website. Okay, so it gives me a balance to how to deal with both of them at times. So to sort out the concerns, talking about the client type A, which is always on time to give their things and the content, images. So this was an e-commerce store for a travel photographer, and I had to add like 200-300 images. But before I could add the last ones, the new ones were already on the email. So I had no problems with that, right? Which gives an idea, as we were talking at the start of the call, that it's not always about the bad, the bad things, because they come hand in hand with the good customers as well. So here I have had no difficulties at all whatsoever. And when I say this, even I am lagging behind to add those pictures now, and I had to say that there are still some pending from last week. Maybe you can give it a rest. And she's pretty cooperative that, okay, one more week and then I will send you more. Perfect. But when I talk about the type B customers who really don't care about the websites, I think the better idea is to, especially on Elementor-based websites, as you stated, to make your sections, right? And once everything is done, you tell them that this has been taken care of. I have made the respective sections for where this will go and everything. And as we were talking, like, here we will write the content, here is the images. And after that, which I'm gonna do today as well, I have to send an email and a message to a customer that, okay, this was the request to be changed on the website. I have done that. If you want, because the customer is aware from before that there has to be content added the last time we had a conversation. So in next 2 or 3 days, if you are able to provide me the content because everything is done from my end, great. Else, on the third day, I would be, or any day after that, I would be happy to coach you on how to add your content yourself. So this will either make the customer rush to give the content when everything is almost done. Else, customer will know that, okay, there is a coaching process which is there, and whenever she wants to get it done, she is open to it. But the clear message is gone that either now or whenever you want, but when you come later, we coach you, and when you coach you, it involves more money to be paid, and it depends on your choice how you want. So it kind of streamlines things a bit here and there.
Man, that's brilliant. I think that's all. I think that works great. I think that's clear and giving options. You give options to people. You don't have to put all that pressure. I don't like to have pressure, especially when I'm paying people. It's like, I'm paying you. Why are you putting all this pressure on me? But you give them options. Like, we could do it. You could do it now. We could take care of it, or it's up to you. You could do it on your own time. I'll show you how.
Yeah.
Man.
And whenever you want to learn, I mean, I'm up. I mean, it will be. I want to say that pressure is not the best idea, because I did try between this process to pressure that give it to me the content because the website is incomplete, but it didn't work out. So I had to find a new way, that an option either now as a request or later whenever it's feasible for you. But as soon as time you want, my designing part is done. So even if content is not there, it's the website which is incomplete, not the design. So you get that there and then.
Well, that sounds great. I think options are awesome to have. And if you have something like, this is something to put down inside the process. This is right here, the process. You have a process, sounds like, of options. You can write these down, like, this is it. And that way you have something solid to show the client, like, for content, this is what we do, but we have these options, and you can just send it to them. So instead of having to like go back and forth, this is something we could create a document over a template that you could go ahead and send to all your clients.
Jeff.
I want to hear how that goes, man.
Jeff, I had experience, especially in my early days, to have clients. So I have had some projects that last for 6 months to 1 year, because they very slow in content. So I'm thinking about uh, to make like in the contract that my job is to develop the website. If they don't give me the content, I will use some dummy content, lorem ipsum, something like that. So when the website is done, I ask them to pay another maybe 40%. So when before go live already get 90% payment. So when all the content ready, they only pay the rest. I am thinking like that, but haven't done yet.
I think that's a great idea. You know, I didn't do that for my first couple years. And like the job would go on forever. And the worst part is you don't get paid. Like they wouldn't even pay for like a year. Like you started working and it's like a year later, you haven't even got paid yet. It's so wrong, you know? And a good way that now what I do is put inside the contracts, there's an end date. You know, we have an end date regardless if you come through with it or not. Like this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to deliver, and put an end date. But I'm also in the process, like you, I need to add some more stuff to our contract as well. You know, and this is, I mean, this call has been giving me good ideas to add to that. And that's why too, in here, going through this onboarding and having this in place to show clients, you got an end date to focus on. And when you kick off the meeting, like you get the deposit paid and you kick off the welcoming meeting and you start it right away. Okay, I'm great. This is exciting. This is our goal. This date is our goal. So you got the momentum going towards that goal. So you keep that momentum going, and this will help it stay on track. This will help it that if it veers off, it's like, wait, we got to get back on track. We need to hit this goal. We only have till this day, you know, and it really does help out. All right, guys, let me go ahead and wrap this thing up real quick. Let me share the screen. I want to make sure like we try to keep these calls under an hour. All right, so let me press play. We're going to wrap it up right now. So first, let's take a look at the benefits and what will happen and what to expect if you do have a systemized onboarding process put in place. Man, you can spend days and sometimes even weeks trying to collect stuff from clients. And in cases like, you know, with content, it could take like up to a year, which is crazy. But I mean, a lot of this stuff is on us, collecting the logins, the assets, and just getting everything so that way we could do our job. The whole point of putting a process together, systemizing it, is to automate it as much as possible. That way we could reduce that time. We could reduce days or even weeks down to hours. That is the purpose of this. That is like, that's what it could do for you. You could save all that time, and imagine what you could do with all that saved time. So you eliminate the tasks that you do over and over. Everything that you do for each project, you put something in place. That way, it literally does not take you much time at all. And a process, you could build a process right now. Everything that we've discussed and gone through, you could sit down for 2 or 3 hours and you could put something down and get this started. You'll also create a much better experience for your client, because your client is going to experience something in a more professional way. It's not a good experience when the client is getting random emails for this, for that. And you have everything in place that makes it not only so you're saving time and you're able to now dedicate more of that saved time in other areas of your business, but you're also making everything easier for your client. So this is where we're coming down to the challenge. So look, I want to make this about action. I really want there to be some kind of action going, because it's good that we talk about it and you know, we learn something about it, but we really get the most out of things like this by putting action behind it. So I want to try something different this week. What I want to do is I want to give a challenge to everyone, myself included, you know, everyone to either write your first onboarding process or update your current process, and to use those 6 steps that we talked about inside here, and then systemize them. And what I mean by systemize them, put them in a file, a folder. You know, we used to, like, there's other programs or apps that you could use for this. I used to use Evernote, but right now I started using Notion. If you haven't heard of Notion, check it out. There are free plans for it. It's great for something like this. But basically, have a place where you could go to. It's easy to find. And you just open it up, and it's all right there for you. Like, you have that list of everything. It's like, great, we got a new project. We open this up, and there's everything we need for our onboarding process. So that is this week's challenge. The challenge is for everyone here. I mean, those of us in the call and those of us watching this video too. So the goal is to either build your first process or update your current process. And next week, instead of talking about something new, let's go over our processes together. Because just like we saw when we listed out the most common questions we asked, we're going to get a lot more ideas from each other. So when we come back next week and we go ahead and we show our processes that we built, you can start getting ideas from someone's like, oh man, that's great. Let's add that in here. Oh, I didn't think about that. We could add that here. And collectively, we could put something together even more strong. I mean, let's use the power of unity right here. You know, more people together. You guys with me, we could do a lot more than me by myself. And we got a good community. We got a lot of people here learning. We could do this together. So that is this week's challenge. Let me know what you think about it. And I look forward to next week reviewing this together and having a process. You have an onboarding process. That is the goal. The goal is that in a week from now, you'll actually have something that you could use. Not just something you learn, but something you could actually use that's going to help you out going forward. Oh.
I agree, Jeff.
Yo.
Good. Because until now, if no challenge, I haven't prepared any contract yet. I don't use contract until now, but I plan to use.
Well, this is just an idea to start off with your contract, Clement. Think of all the things you need to add in it and list the bullet points out. I mean, you start with the basics. I think we went over this in the call already. It might be in one of the PDFs we put out there. The bullet points to a contract. One is the scope. You want to detail the scope. Another one is you want to detail the timeline. Another one is detail the payments and how the payments are made. But then start to think of the terms and conditions. Things like content. What kind of terms and conditions are you going to have for content? What kind of terms and conditions are you going to have for deposits? Are they non-refundable? So start to list those things out, and that's a good starting point for your contract.
I don't know in your country, but in Indonesia, I don't know, Lauren, know or not about this. Usually, Indonesian people, most and not all, some Indonesian people is very lazy to read the contract, including me.
Look at Clement, you're moving up, man. You're going inside a very positive direction, and you keep going in the direction you're going in, you're going to start to working with more higher up clients, clients that are dealing with more professional businesses. Right now, take the opportunity to learn and to establish it. You're not going to have the most perfect contract unless if you pay for one right now, but you'll have a more understanding after you've been doing this for a year and after you've done it. And then when you do get a higher client, you're going to be presented as somebody far more professional than when you started off as. So building processes and improving them is a nonstop journey. Starting now, continuously improving them as you go. And I guarantee you, a year from now, if you start building processes now, you start with this onboarding process, a year from now, as you're using it and developing it, you're going to fly. It is going to make your jobs and projects so much smoother for you and for your client. So we could open up for Q&A, give it about like 5-10 minutes. And that is all for this call. I really appreciate everyone. I'm really grateful for this group. You guys helped me out so much. I'm excited to like dig into the onboarding myself. Like this is, this is great. You know, I get those moments of gratitude and I just get stuck on words, but that's just how I feel. Any questions or anything before we end the call?
There's nothing for me, just to say thank you for this, because I'm just learning so much as a newbie into the business. It's great. So I've got another 2.5 pages of notes I've made, so plenty to go through again.
Cool.
It's all good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I just want to add up, like I say, I trust in the idea of being grateful for everything and anything possible. So this is one of the places, and you and the other people who share their insights with everyone in this group. A special thanks to you because you have been the creator, but I think this appreciation goes to everyone who is connected in here. So, you know, just getting to learn enough week by week. Today, just to share a small experience, I was very lazy. I had one of these days, I've been sleeping all day. It was 2:30. I was like, it's time for a call. Maybe I might not make it because I'm still sleeping. But then I was like, it's okay. I mean, it's a great place to be. And then see, now I'm not sleepy anymore. Just being grateful for the call today. So it's nice to be here, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajav, man. Yeah. Feel it, man. I feel it. Well, man, you guys make this possible. I'm really grateful for all you guys. And I'm really looking forward to this challenge this week. I'm motivated on it. I hope everyone else is, but you know, I want to see what everyone comes up with next week. So I'm going to check in. I'm going to check in next week, like during the week, like on Facebook and stuff, just to like, you know, make sure everyone's on track with it. But really, all it takes is about 2 or 3 hours of your time. Like if you're just to sit down, schedule it in 2 to 3 hours and put in that time on this, it's going to help out so much. Cool. All right, guys, that's it. I hope you all are staying safe, healthy, and productive during this time. And yeah, I look forward to it. I look forward to next week. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good day. Okay, namaste, people. Have a great week.
You too.